All right. Thanks everyone for coming. I guess the first thing, I mean, we were reviewing the sort of the nominal responsibilities in advance of the election, and so far, Tex has largely been running these, but technically, this is probably deficient on my part, and so for the folks who are going to be running, we're going to try to have the chair taking a bit more of an active role. So you're stuck with me for today. So just to bring up the agenda. So what we have on here, firstly, I wanted to just do a review of the current priorities of this committee and goals. Make sure, so we want to discuss the various working groups in progress and check whether they're actually lining up with what we're doing. But actually, I've just remembered that Tex did want to add an early agenda item, which was to introduce Abik and Uday. So do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Go for it, Uday.
Yeah. Thank you. So my name is Uday Solanki, and I have mostly the technology background, working 20 years plus in technology area. I'm the CTO of a hospitality technology company, ERMX, and I've been introduced to Cardano in 2021, since been learning and then training the more developers in my organization and around. So I ran a couple of years ago campaigns where trained more than 20 people, developers, and this year I've been kind of bringing the awareness for the Cardano in the developer community. So in India, I'm running this Cardano Developers Forum, which is there about 150 plus members. And I'm also working on some open source development for Cardano, as well as working on some implementation of the Cardano in hospitality technology or hospitality industry. So that's kind of primarily my background, and yeah, currently part of the developer advocate group. Thank you.
Abik, would you like to?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Sam and all know me very well, but I am the community manager at Intersect, and I'm doing a bit part work of community managing for the open source, the OSO, and helping out Christian and Tex with the various aspects of OSO. So yeah. Hey, Sam.
Hello.
Loving the goatee. Sorry, I know this recording. Sorry.
Cool. Well, nice to meet you both. So next item on the agenda, yeah, just to have a look. So I'll just share a link to. So these are our current goals and actions. I just wanted to sort of go through and see how we're tracking on those things. So let me also share this if anyone doesn't want to open the link. Is that visible to everyone? Should I make it a little bit bigger? Sorry, it's a tiling window manager, so the easiest way to adjust the size of windows is to create other windows and shift them around. So our first goal is by Q4, which is rapidly approaching in a terrifying manner. All Cardano projects will have been audited and made decisions based on the PLF about the sustainability, risk mitigation strategy, and possible post-mortem activities. Tex, do you have an idea where we are with regards to that goal? What's going on with regards to it?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me see if I can jump in here on, yeah, Christian will jump in here as well. So basically right now, as far as everything that Intersect has as a repo, it has been audited. As far as like the documentation that it has, and I want to say we're waiting on the incubation working group here to make sure we've got that full audit as far as the lifecycle framework. but we are on track as soon as we get the security policy. That's the only thing that's pending to basically enforce the full documentation requirements for all of the repos. So I don't see any issues that that's done by Q4. And again, I guess what we'll refocus on, I don't know if it's in this meeting or maybe the next one or two, but that project incubation working group filling out the lifecycle framework and what an actual audit looks like for those projects. But Christian?
Yeah, this is tied in with 3 of our objectives altogether. We did the governance policy audit. We're going to go through with the project starting next week to make sure we get the documentation in place. I'll do one-on-ones. The acceptance criteria that drafted and proposed to the group here, so we can finalize that and define those first 3 phases, and then we can categorize all the projects in Cardano or under Intersect in that categories. And then the security policy, I think we're mostly across the line there. It's just one more final meeting to get official sign off, and then we'll post everything associated with that.
Okay, cool. So pretty good on that one then.
Yeah, that'll be before Q3 ends.
Okay, so goal 2, we want 70% of Intersect maintained projects will be aligned with the governance policy by using open communication channels for discussions and meetings.
I think we're mostly there. It's just ensuring that governance policy is in effect.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
goal 1 and 2 are kind of tied together in this instance, but as far as the communications, that is that's out there, and that is something that I've found my way into direct management of as well. So
do we have some kind of reporting on, you know, which things are which projects have switched over, what the comms channels are? Do we have a
I don't think we have anything that's fully formalized, but that's something we can work on.
Yeah, the only thing we're missing, and it's a discussion I have with Sam, is having an overarching Cardano node project channel. That's an escalation point from the other working groups to go up to.
yeah?
That way you're covering all of core Cardano with release management, etc. I don't know. But I think you'd propose, Sam, just reorganizing node to be that function, right?
Yeah, call it like node release or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then
Oh, sorry. Carry on.
oh, but that would fulfill the meta PMC that we've been lacking. But basically, if you want to track the development, you just go under TSC and see all the projects lined up. But we did get one established for the wallet repos. I think that was the only thing we're missing.
I guess the question was more, do we have like a spreadsheet with all of the repos and sort of ticky box? I vaguely recalled that we did have a spreadsheet with all of the repos and a thing of, yes, they have a governance policy in place. Yes, they have a, you know, open comms channel, and here it is. And if we don't have a spreadsheet, maybe that's something we could start to pull together.
We could have it in a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can we assign that as an action to the OSO to put that?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Text them, open a ticket for me. I know it.
Thanks. So I guess, again, this is going to be another one. So at the end of 2024, 50% of Intersect maintained Cardano projects will be supported by paid maintainers from at least 2 companies.
This one may push into 2025. We're at least trying to get 2 maintainers. The paid compensation is tied to the budgetary process. So that's the only variable that's outside our control.
Okay. I suppose the relevant thing here is, do we need to prepare something for the what I'm thinking of as the, you know, the spending bill, the big finance bill?
Yeah. I have a draft of what we're calling it the maintainer retainer program.
Okay.
But essentially, that should be something our committee puts together as a budget proposal that goes to the budget committee, and we go through that process.
Do we then want to schedule, or do we want a working group to put that together, or do we want to schedule a meeting to review exactly what's going to be in there? And if
I
so,
think we should. If the policy working group doesn't have anything going right now, we could switch it to that as an interim deliverable.
that might make sense. I guess, is it Sandeep, are you chairing the policy working group at the moment?
I thought that was Adam.
Or is it Adam? Sorry. Okay, there's a conspicuous silence on whoever is chairing the policy working group.
Oh, yeah, that is me. Sorry.
Okay.
Are you sick too, Adam?
Yeah, I think I'm on the downslope. Yeah, I've been wrecked the last 2-3 days. So
Oh dear.
Okay.
I guess the question is then, would the policy working group be happy with taking that as an action to yes, put together effectively that contribution to the budget proposal that we're for sort of having paid maintainers for the core repos?
yeah, I'll go ahead and take that on.
Okay, thanks. So in that case, I mean, we've already, just looking at these actions, we've got basically we've defined what a maintainer is. That's there. We've identified possible maintainers. I think that's probably already done. So yes, we're just at the basically engage the TSC, and it seems like this rather than going to the TSC, this will be going to the budget proposal, which then goes into the TSC. So
Yeah. The TSC. So the bigger program will be the budget, but
Yeah.
for the ones that we don't even have a maintainer, we're going to TSC direct, and I should get those out by Q4.
okay. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to add that in any of this here, based on what we've been able to push as the open source office, and of course with the help of the OSC here, we may just have to kind of draw up the path that says we got the sign off by these different people. I think there's probably going to be something that is formal that comes from budget to actually approve it, or put forth the funds. But again, as far as what that map looks like that we publish, we'll end up have done the work on the back end, but we'll just say yes, TSC looked at this, and then budget looked at this, and whatever. We may not have all the formal documentation as it would normally be in the future, just based on the status of those committees right now.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Q4 established a security framework for all Intersect maintained Cardano projects. So this is so 2 is very much in progress. There is now a security working group which is not under the OSC that is looking at this. I guess the security policies for individual repositories has not so far been handled by that working group. Maybe it should be. Adam, go for it.
Yeah, I think we need that committee or working group or whatever we're calling it to kind of, I think, formalize what their processes are, and then we can basically come up with a standardized, security markdown file that says here's a process to escalate issues or whatever. So
Okay.
Yeah, I was looking in getting that drafted from the working group once they have the policy in place and incident response. So.
Okay. I mean, I can also take that as an action to take to the security working group. I mean, I guess a few of us are involved in that, but so
Yeah.
we'll take that as an action to the security working group.
I think the purpose of this goal is just making sure that there is a security process for all projects and that the working group regulate it. So
Yeah.
that'll be our sign off, just making sure the MDs everywhere and everyone knows that process.
Yeah. Okay. Goal 5, again by Q3, That's where the community member can get a change into core Cardano code. So I guess, Adam, you are our tester for this.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess technically I have already done this, then gone a step further and actually managed to change some of the GHC repos and everything that were attached to Cardano addresses. So
Nice.
it's definitely possible. Not necessarily the easiest at the moment, but definitely possible. So
Okay, so in that case, we can basically say we're pretty much ticked off the fifth goal. So that's
Yeah.
Yep.
I think the evolution of it is the remediation plan based on the pilot results, how to improve those, and then do a bigger sample size with all maintainers included for the review.
Okay. Do we have a group working on that remediation plan?
No, but I can put that together.
Okay.
I think it's more of an OSO versus working group deliverable.
Okay. Then maybe then you can present that in a following, because it looks like as well we're going to have a number of goals that are by Q3, so we should have another meeting the start of Q4 to establish what the next batch of goals are.
I agree.
So maybe
we
put on the agenda.
We could just collate it with the new election too.
It's a good
That
idea.
way we revisit the charter and then revisit the strategy.
Okay, cool. Anybody else have any questions, comments on anything related to just the run of the current goals? Okay. So then the next topic is basically proposing an exceptional meeting to allow all of the candidates for OSC membership to present themselves, and for anybody amongst the wider membership who wants to query them, to question them, to do that. So, Tex, you're proposing next day for this?
Yeah, I have it set up. I can show if you like.
Yeah, please. I can stop sharing this.
Yep, no trouble. Sorry, everyone gets to see my calendar. Okay, so I have it right here. Open source committee candidate intro interview. This is also duplicated to the Intersect events calendar, so it should be viewable in Discord there. Basically, yeah, what it's going to happen is that as voting concludes this week, or as nominations conclude this week, I'm going to do my verifications, and when we have all of that set, I'm going to send this out in an email that says, hey, here's a meeting specifically for you to attend. Realistically, candidates that have nominated themselves are responsible for their own marketing, right? Or based on what they provided is what's going to be used as their bio for the community, the membership to vote upon. So this just gives them another opportunity. I recognize they didn't necessarily have any choice in this, but it aligns with when the OSC normally meets. And again, it just gives them the additional space that if it's really important to them, they have a place to show up. So I believe a secondary part of this here is if there's any specific questions that I should provide in the email that says, hey, when you show up to this intro interview meeting, you might want to share more about this. So if anybody has something like that, you're more than welcome to raise your hand, call it out, or put it in the chat here. That way I can copy it back. And then Nick, for you, Bernard hopped in, so when we get to the next item there, if we can pop him in.
Yeah, sure.
Was that clear for everyone, or did anyone have any questions?
All right. I guess it's clear. Sorry, Bernard, did you want to introduce yourself? I think that was Tex's suggestion.
Thank you very much. Greetings, everybody. My name is Bernard Spanda, the developer advocate. A little bit of where I am. I am in South Africa. I've been with Cardano since 2022. I'm one of the first Bluetooth pioneer students. Have worked in various Cardano community. Have been very active with the Catalyst, being a community reviewer, before a proposal assessor, a Cardano voter, a community builder. We've got a very strong rising community of Cardano developers in South Africa. I was funded in Fund 11 on the technical side. Then out of that funding, I've created Coxygen Global, which is a Cardano technical smart contract support. We have got now over 100 subscriptions that we have now. So currently now, I'm very happy with this developer advocate program that I have, working with Cardano open source projects and the communities. Thank you very much, Tracy.
Nice, thank you. Okay, the next topic on the agenda was a review of the policy working group, although I think we may have already given at least an interim answer for that. So the question was, what the current policy working group is focused on. Adam, I don't know if you want to give an idea of that.
No, yeah, I have nothing prepared this morning. I'm barely alive at this
Okay. But I think, well, the larger question was, do we need a policy working group or should it be a step down right now? I think, at least for today, we have an answer, which is we would like the policy working group to take a look at, yes, putting together basically this maintainership budget proposal. It's not quite a policy, but we might as well use the same working group. So we can defer that topic. Yeah, go Adam, go for it.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in there and add that I think realistically right now, only you and myself are the only two kind of active members of that policy working group as it stands. So that might be something that's better handled or suited after these upcoming elections, because we've seen a decrease in participation from people like Kevin and Salona and other people that had raised their hands to participate there. So it feels less like a working group and more like who are the two guys willing to raise their hand and stand up in front of the firing squad. So definitely something that we can revisit as we get the kind of the membership of the group back to sustainable numbers.
Sorry, I zoned out there for a second. What working group is that?
Policy, open source policy.
Open source policy. Okay. How much more work do we have to do on the open source policy?
It's not a ton at the moment. There's whenever we do have a new action item that basically references a policy that either needs refinement or does not yet exist is identified. And then from there, it's really been, we were working through the pilot program for community maintainership and contribution. But then it's going to become a matter of, just kind of applying all these policies and making sure all of our core repos contain updated and accurate policies across the board. So not a ton. I don't know that it needs to exist and not just be like a special task force that spins up when the bat signal is called, might be enough. Or we just raise hands for volunteers in the moment when we need a new policy to be enacted, sort of thing. So I'm kind of willing to play it by ear as needed.
Yeah, it might be worthwhile to dissolve the group and then basically when it has an action item, have this group basically put together a quick task force working group, whatever you want to call it, to solve that problem and then close it down once that problem is solved. Because I know a lot of people have problems with meeting overload and whatnot, and having working group available for when work becomes available doesn't really make a lot of sense in my opinion.
Yeah, it made sense originally because we needed a bunch of stuff in place, but now we kind of have that there, or it got passed off to others. So
Right, and I think that's something
Yeah.
we need to get better at in
Yeah.
Intersect in general, not just the open source committee, is when there isn't a task to be done, we can dissolve these things. There's no need to keep them running.
Tex?
Terrence?
Yeah, so I'll pop in here. This is the entire idea, or one of the ideas, if you will, of the special interest groups. So I believe, leaning towards what y'all are saying, I would also agree. I don't know how long it needs to stay as a special interest group, but that's the official, unofficial title that it would hold when it's spun down from an actual remit.
No, special interest groups are about basically getting feedback from the community. You would not create a temporary special interest group to change policies in a technical manner.
Well, what
That
I'm saying
would
is that
would be an abuse of special interest groups.
that's the backwards trajectory, though. So if a working group no longer has a remit, they're relegated to a special interest group until they're once
No,
again
that
given
does not make sense. You are abusing the term special interest group if you do that.
I mean, I think maybe there's a thing in between it of like, if a group no longer makes sense, but people are still interested, if a group no longer has an active remit, but people are still interested in it, it might make sense for it to be a special interest group. For something like this, which was basically a group spun up to do a particular action, I'm not sure, for example, that anyone on the policy working group has a special interest in policies. They were just able to, willing and able
Exactly.
to take that out.
Exactly.
So,
to clarify, only
both-
the committees can establish the working group, so the committees can disband the working group if there's no deliverable.
Right.
Special interest groups are completely community-led, and they can spin those up as they desire to fulfill their remit. But policy doesn't have a remit, so there is no de-escalation. We just disband it until we need it again.
that
Right.
makes sense. So in which case, do we want to consider disbanding the policy working group for now on the basis that it's basically delivered on its remit? It's defined those core policies?
I would say so, and then we just work on that interim thing they had in the background just between us, I guess.
So as Terrence says, I'm not sure we're actually quorate today. So let's not put it to a vote today, just on technical grounds. But let's have an action next time, hopefully, if we're quorate, to vote on disbanding that group.
Yeah, that's fine. I was gonna say we've got yourself, Adam and Christian. I know Daniel was here, but I don't know if we're holding tight to any of those attendance and voting for those type of pieces there. But yeah, I mean, we'll just put it on there for next time just to confirm, hey, this is going to be done. So.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Quick update on that too, since Tex mentioned it briefly. Philip also has to step down from the committee, so we'll just have the nominees replace his seat as well.
Okay.
Can I suggest, and this is something that's worked really well in the roadmap core committee, is basically doing asynchronous votes for things like this in Discord, and then basically just confirming the vote in the meeting minutes, saying that, hey, we got this was the result, basically. That way, if you don't have people making the meeting, you can still get things approved.
Yeah, works fine. In which case, Tex, can you post that vote asynchronously on disbanding the policy working group? Thanks.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and officially second the motion to disband. So.
Then the only thing then coming on that is we talked about putting together the budget proposal. Maybe let's revisit that when we have new committee members, as potentially a new action that might need to spin up a small working group to deal with, or maybe get assigned to one of the previous ones. But I take your point, Adam, that at the moment everyone's a bit burned out, and so maybe it makes sense to wait for some fresh blood before we bring that up. Okay, and if, so no, okay. No. Then the last thing, Tex, I think you wanted to invite the OSC seats to open source office hours. Office hours.
Yes, I apologize. That's another last minute add-on there, but this is related to the committee elections and how we are meshing with what Intersect is doing for elections. Let me start with this. I put it in the chat. Basically, what will happen is that we had 4 empty seats, so those are the ones that are going to be elected now from the nominees that we have. In keeping with the trend of what most committees are going to be doing, which is half of their seats. Everyone that's here in a seat currently is still eligible to submit their name. It just gives the community a chance to vote on it. Judging how by this round is gone, I don't know how much more that's going to be when it comes to the rest of Intersect's votes. But my only point with having OSC seats currently attending the open source office hours is to align with the request from Karen, which says, hey, when are committees going to be open to the public for potential nominees to come and ask questions about what it's like to be on the OSC? So we already have those open office hours from OSO. That's a great, easy way for us to drive that impact without having to schedule another meeting for you all. So unless there's any major qualms with those times or you all popping in over the next couple of weeks throughout September and October, those are Tuesdays, 1 hour earlier than the committee meeting on the same week. So let me know. It's an invite, but if it doesn't work, we can schedule a separate meeting where you all may be able to attend, or again, temporarily move the office hours for those weeks until we get past the committee elections.
Yeah, the committee meetings are currently 6 a.m. my time. So if we could, you don't want me waking up at 5 a.m. with no coffee and telling people about what being on the committee is like. That's not going to be a good experience for anybody.
Understood. Okay. I will put a poll out then for what time is going to work best, and we'll just do a separate event. I'll try to keep that to be bi-weekly. I don't think there'll be more than 3 or 4. So.
Would it also help to propose doing alternate hours just to accommodate everyone's times as well?
Yeah, doing something like every other week, the time changes to a maybe later in the day US, so it's more early morning in Southeast Asia and stuff like that, so we can be more accommodating to Australia and or Southeast Asia, and the west coast of the United States might be something worth considering.
Yeah, we have a meeting twice a month already, so one of those can just be later.
I also strongly suggest anything you can do asynchronously. If you can do it asynchronously, then you can get everyone to participate. I know that's not always possible, but there's a lot of things people can do asynchronously that we don't right now.
Okay. Oh, sorry, Chris, you had another.
I was going to say, surprisingly, we are pretty good asynchronously too, Sam. But the other thing I was going to propose is if the committee agrees to it, one of the OSO things that I'm personally leading is trying to collate what open source libraries exist within Cardano that may not already be on developer tools, etc. And I've already gotten community interest for participants in a working group. I'll personally lead it, so I just want to make sure the committee is okay adopting that, if that's something we want to go for. Because the two focuses that come out of our open source incubation altogether is the projects and products. And for the projects, I want to make sure those libraries are accounted for.
Sandeep?
Hope you can hear me well now. Yeah, I was pretty interested in that as well. After the hard fork, I will have more time to also contribute on that. So please keep me on the look as well on that.
Okay. I won't be starting anything till next week for collating a time for it.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good.
Do you need formal approval on that, or just want
just to
show of, yeah, that sounds reasonable?
Yeah, I mean, if there's no disagreements, but it just ties in that feedback to this agenda. So that's where the approval comes in.
Yeah, so then should that be another async approval to recognize this working group or to initiate this working group under the OSC?
I think we have enough quorum here. Me, you, Adam, and Cindy.
Right, in which case, all those in favor say yellow sticky thumb or something.
Yellow sticky thumb or something.
Perfect.
Looks good.
Cool. I can't even remember how to do it. There we go.
I'll get that up and running by the end of the week, which is tomorrow.
Awesome.
So
Yeah, I'll give you the whole remit.
what about the other one, CWG? Because that's not publicized yet, but it is on the Gitbook.
Yeah. So everyone knows, I think we formally, this working group's been going on. Ronald and Pat are part of it, but it's what Pat stepped down to chair and lead. It's on our Gitbook page, but similar to, so the open source library working group is going to complement projects and help with that and collating that list. The commercialization working group is addressed at attacking the products and trying to drive commercial adoption in Cardano and trying to be a point together for everything going on. Their whole scope thing is here. And yeah, so you got Pat's chairing it, Simon Farr, AWS VP guy. I think he's also chairing the product committee. And then you got these members here, and I think the list is growing. But yeah, they're up there. I think they have a Slack channel, but they meet every other Friday at this point. So I'll actually give a tease too. So I'm also working on a paid open source concept, which will tie into the whole budget process. But this is kind of what I've been working on in the background, which is you have this whole 6-step phase for how things in Cardano get built. I'm trying to figure out within the red, which is my sphere of influence, how open source helps this to make sure the treasury and commercial adoption, basically commercial adoption happens for Cardano and the treasury gets replenished therefore. And then whatever revenue models Intersect has helps collate back to this. The maintainer retainer program is the piece that I'm working on that complements 3 through 6. 1 and 2, there's multiple open source paid models that I'm looking at to help this. I'm getting it peer reviewed by industry experts. But essentially, Treasury funds the different initiatives with whatever the budget process is. These things in blue are what I'm hoping comes from that to start the program off with. And then that feeds into our products and the open source libraries. The libraries encourage businesses to build on top of Cardano, which leads to adoption. And then the actual products, the commercialization working group is trying to figure out how we connect these people, help support them, and get them within one of these 3 client buckets. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff I'm working out on here, but there's just a brief snippet. That's why I'm spinning up this working group to help collate that. Go ahead. I can't see.
Yeah, sorry, that was me. I think the only big thing and the cause for concern here that I see is that if all of these different steps are paid, at some point we do develop a Pavlovian response that I need to make work for myself and or generate job security to continue getting paid to do things. So that may make us less responsive to deprecating libraries and tools and services that got developed and created at some point that maybe are no longer in regular use. So I think we need to make sure that we're as pragmatic and willing to cut things off when they've achieved their usefulness lifespan, to ensure we're not paying to maintain a bunch of stuff that we really don't need, because I could definitely see this just infinitely bloating with and a bunch of people get paid positions that really don't warrant or justify their contribution to the ecosystem anymore.
So two things to address that too. The maintainer retainer program ties in only 3 through 6. It doesn't touch 1 and 2, and I'll get to the discrepancy there in a second. But this comes down to the incubation, the acceptance criteria, and the life cycle stuff, because that basically us determining the acceptance criteria determines what's getting funded in the maintainer retainer program. So only the things that we find viable or the community keeps that comes through that incubation process is within the remit of that program. Things that don't make it there have to find their alternate sources. That way you're reducing that. And then for the ideation productization, the code forest model is something Europe does, which is where projects themselves post bugs or things that they need fixed, and then there's a reward mechanism associated with that. So therefore, it's the projects doing that ideation themselves, and it's not directly tied to our piece. I got to figure that out, but that has been a thought process through this, because it's not just, I don't want people to keep surviving off this system. The whole idea of the maintainer retainer piece is just to get rid of that risk mitigation, so that if you're looking to build on Cardano, you have a sustainability aspect across the main core tech stack, and then you don't have to worry about a log4j issue in the future. That's kind of my intention with it, at least. Other questions?
Yeah, I was just going to add in, Adam, I think the direct answer to that, if your time frees up at this point, is to devote time to the project incubation working group. And I would say that opening up that up to the community there as well. That's where we really got to get the actual life cycle defined, and in that, essentially, the OSC with oversight or with this working group is going to determine the start, stop, continue of a project, right? And that's, again, that's going to come from it can't come from OSO, but it can come from OSC as the community. So I put that out there as important, so maybe we can get some additional support there, get that group meeting on a regular basis, and really build out that life cycle, that framework.
To clarify too, this concept, I don't intend to have anything close by, at least till the end of October. I'm running it through friends at the Apache Linux Foundation and our Bitergia friends to make sure it makes sense, and I'm accounting for things, and then bring it back towards the Cardano aspects in particular.
So this working group's been running for a while, right? And now the proposal is to bring it under the auspices of, I guess it doesn't necessarily seem to tie in super much to the OSC, would be my concern.
I put it here as an interim home, because there was no other committee really to set up and run them. But they do tie in the aspect of ensuring open source projects can reach commercial adoption. So that's the only thing of how I found that piece.
Okay. Maybe, I mean, then maybe in that case, it would be interesting to get a quick briefing from that working group on what its current actions are, and in particular, how they tie into the current goals of the OSC, if they do, or if we need to establish, if this is maybe let's do that when we have new members, and I say we start establishing new goals, because maybe that's suggesting that some of those new goals should be related to say commercialization, which is something we've left until now.
Yeah, I can get them to come give us a brief too, because it may be they transition to the product committee whenever that gets stood up officially.
Yeah. Thanks.
So to confirm, are we looking at that for the 19th, which may be rescheduled to the 20th, or are we looking for that like in October?
Why don't we go for the 19th or the 20th?
Okay.
Well,
I guess we're now
when are the elections again?
What's that?
When are the elections again?
The elections, the initial elections, the ones that we're doing, are going to complete on the 6th.
Okay, so everyone should be in place by the 19th, so that makes sense then. So maybe we should make the 19th about reviewing goals for the next couple of, half a year.
Yeah.
And potentially as part of that, we should have the CWG, bringing its sort of intentions here and working out how they fit into that model.
Right. So the request would be then to move the 19th to the 20th just as a one-time change because of the open source summit travel.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. And then do we want to keep that at 8 Central, 6 Pacific, or do we want to push that in an hour? Or
I think that's probably this time seems to work for people, so I would suggest leaving it at this time, but we can maybe also discuss that offline.
I will do both.
All right. So any other business, basically? Yeah, Adam.
Yeah, just wanted to say, just kind of for the record, Tex and myself are going to be meeting, I believe, later today, and just finalizing details of the vote. And so I'm also coordinating with Intersect's current contractors, who is Summon, on making sure that they're going to be ready to execute this vote for us and everything as well. So progress is going, and we'll do some async communications later today. Hopefully, once we have kind of locked and loaded and confirmed everything, but no cause for alarm at the moment from this end.
Nice. Anybody else have anything?
Price of ADA went back up.
Nice.
Why'd you have to
Oh,
say
did it?
something? No, we're heading back down. Christian said
Oh.
something. Like, forget about it.
Okay.
The pump's over. Everybody go back to your bear cave.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining. Have a lovely afternoon / day / evening, depending on where you are. And yeah, see you all in a couple of weeks' time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
guys.
you. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Right.
Thank you.